Hi there, this is Mrs. Nadbath. I teach second grade and I am reading Flora and Ulysses chapters 57 through 60. Chapter 57, Tootie to the Rescue. It was 2:20 a.m. The grass was heavy with dew. Flora was picking her way through the darkness. She was breathing heavily because she was carrying Mary Ann in her arms, and Mary Ann, for all of her pink cheeks and delicate features and excessive silly frilliness, was incredibly heavy. Talk about stout, thought Flora. The criminal element. Can one reason with the criminal? This is debatable. But it is true that the rules of nursery school are often in good effect in the criminal world. What do we mean by this? We mean that if the criminal has something you want, then you must have something he wants. Only then is it possible for some kind of discussion to begin. There was nothing and no one that Flora's mother loved more than the lamp. Together, Flora and William Spiver would find her mother. They would offer to exchange the little shepherdess for the squirrel, and then all would be well, or something. That was Flora's plan. But first, she had to find William Spiver, and she didn't think it would be a good idea to ring Tootie's doorbell at 2:20 a.m. William Spiver, said Flora. Here she was, standing in the dark, holding a unlit lamp, and hoping that a temporarily blind boy would hear her call his name and come help her rescue her squirrel. A squirrel for a superhero sure did seem to need a lot of rescuing. Things were pretty grim. William Spiver, she said again. William Spiver! And then, without really intending to, she started saying William Spiver's name over and over, louder and louder. William Spiver, William Spiver, William Spiver, William Spiver, William Spiver, William Spiver! There was no way he would be able to hear her, of course. She knew that, but she couldn't make herself stop. She stupidly, hopefully, kept saying his name. Flora Bell? William Spiver, William Spiver, William Spiver. Flora Bell? William Spiver, William Spiver, William Spiver. Flora Bell! And there he was, standing at a darkened window, conjured apparently by her need and her desperation and her words. William Spiver. Or at least the shadow of William Spiver. Oh, said Flora. Hello. Yes, hello to you too, said William Spiver. How lovely of you to visit in the middle of the night. There's been an emergency, said Flora. Right, said William Spiver. Just let me put on my bathrobe. Flora felt a familiar prick of irritation. It's an emergency, William Spiver. There's no time to waste. Forget about your bathrobe. I'll just put on my bathrobe, said William Spiver, as if she hadn't said anything at all. And I'll be right there, wherever there is. It is shockingly difficult to locate even the most obvious things when one is temporarily blind. The world is very hard to navigate when you can't see. Although, to be perfectly frank, I had trouble navigating the world even before the advent of the blindness. I've never been what you would call coordinated or spatially intelligent. It's not even that I bump into things, it's more that things leap out of nowhere and bump into me. My mother says that this is because I live in my head as opposed to living in the world. But I ask you, don't we all live in our heads? Where else could we possibly exist? Our brains are the universe. Don't you think that's true, Flora Bell? I said it's an emergency. Well then, I'll just put on my bathrobe and we'll sort it all out. Flora put Mary Ann down on the ground. She looked around wildly in the darkness. What was she looking for? She didn't know. Maybe a stick that she could use to hit William Spiver over the head? Flora Bell, Ulysses is gone, she screamed. My mother kidnapped him. I think my mother is possessed. I think she might hurt him. Do not cry, she told herself. Do not cry. Do not hope. Do not cry. Just observe. Shh, said William Spiver. It's okay, Florabelle. I'll help you. We'll find him. And then the light in William Spiver's room came on, and Tootie said, What in the world are you doing, William? I'm looking for my bathrobe. Tootie to the rescue. The words appeared above Tootie's head in a neon kind of brightness. Tootie, shouted Flora, it's an emergency. My mother has kidnapped the squirrel. Flora? Said Tootie. She stuck her head out the window. Why do you have that awful lamp? It's complicated, said Flora. Again with the lamp, said William Spiver. What in the world is the meaning of the lamp? My mother loves the lamp, said Flora. I'm holding it hostage. Desperate times call for desperate measures, said Tootie. That's right, said Flora. It's an emergency. I'll just get my purse, said Tootie. Chapter 58. Nothing personal. It was dark, very, very dark, and there was the smell of smoke. Flora's mother had him in a sack, and the sack was flung over her back, and she was walking somewhere, and it was very, very dark. At the last minute, Flora's mother had picked up a piece of paper with his poem on it and thrown it into the sack along with him. Was this meant as kindness? Was she mocking him? Or was she merely covering her tracks? The squirrel didn't know, but he held the crumpled ball of paper to his chest and tried to comfort himself. He thought, worse things have happened to me. He tried to think of what they were. There was a time the pickup truck had run over his tail. That hurt very much. There was also the incident with the BB gun and the teddy bear and the garden hose, the slingshot, the bow and rubber arrow. But everything that had happened before paled in comparison to this, because there's so much more to lose now. Flora and her round and lovable head, cheese puffs, poetry, giant donuts. Shoot, he was going to leave the world without ever having tried a giant donut. And Tootie had said that she was going to read poetry out loud to him, and that would never happen now either. It was very dark in the sack. It was very dark everywhere. I am going to die, thought the squirrel. He hugged his poem closer, and the paper crackled inside. This is nothing personal, Mr. Squirrel, said Miss Flora's mother. Ulysses held himself very still. He found this sentiment difficult to believe. It really has nothing to do with you, said Flora's mother. It's about Florabelle. She's a strange child, and the world is not kind of strange. She was strange before, and she's stranger now. Now she is walking around with a squirrel on her shoulder, talking to a squirrel, talking to a typing, flying squirrel. Not good. Not good at all. Was Flora strange? He supposed so. But what was wrong with that? She was strange in a good way. She was strange in a lovable way. Her heart was so big. It was capacious, just like George Buckman's heart. Do you know what I want, said Flora's mother. Ulysses couldn't imagine. I want things to be normal. I want a daughter who is happy. I want her to have friends who aren't squirrels. I don't want her to end up unloved and all alone in the world. But it doesn't matter, does it? It does matter, thought Ulysses. It's time to do what needs to be done, said Flora's mother. She stopped walking. Uh-oh, thought Ulysses. Chapter 59, Destination Unknown. Tootie was driving, if that's what you wanted to call it. She didn't have her hands at 10 o'clock and 2. She didn't have a hand on any clock. Basically, Tootie drove with one finger on the wheel. Flora's father would have been appalled. They were in the front seat, all four of them. Tootie, Marianne, Flora, and William Spiver. They were speeding down the road. It was alarming and exhilarating to be going so fast. So your plan is to effect an exchange? said William Spiver. The lamp for the squirrel? Yes, said Flora. But, and please correct me if I am wrong, we have no idea where the squirrel and your mother are. Flora hated the phrase, correct me if I'm wrong. In her experience, people only said it when they knew they were right. Ulysses, Tootie shouted out her open window. Ulysses! Flora could see the squirrel's name. Ulysses, flying out of the car and into the night, a single beautiful word that was immediately swallowed up by the wind and darkness. Her heart clenched. Why hadn't she told the squirrel she loved him? I hate to be the voice of reason, said William Spiver. Don't be then, said Flora. But here we are, speeding down the road, and we are speeding, aren't we, Great Aunt Tootie? Surely we are exceeding the posted speed limit. I don't see a posted speed limit, said Tootie. She hollered Ulysses' name again. In any case, said William Spiver, it seems that we are going extremely fast. And are we speeding where exactly? We don't know. We are en route to an unknown destination, calling out the name of a missing squirrel all the while. It doesn't seem one bit rational. What's your idea, said Flora. What's your plan? We should try to think where your mother would have taken him. We should be logical, methodical, scientific. Ulysses, shouted Tootie. Ulysses! Screamed Flora. Saying his name won't make him appear, said William Spiver. But saying William Spiver's name over and over and made him appear, this Flora knew from terrible things can happen to you, was magical thinking or mental causation. According to terrible things, it was a dangerous way to think. It was dangerous to allow yourself to believe that what you said directly influenced the universe. But sometimes it did, didn't it? Do not hope, Flora thought. But she couldn't help it. She did hope. She was hoping. She had been hoping all along. Ulysses! She shouted. The car slowed down. What now? Said William Spiver. Have we spotted something squirrel-related? Tootie used a single finger to steer the car to the side of the road. Let me guess, said William Spiver as they coasted to a stop. We've run out of gas. We've run out of gas, said Tootie. Oh, the symbolism, said William Spiver. Why, Flora wondered, had she ever thought that William Spiver would be able to help her? Why had she thought of him as her safe port in a storm? Was it because he had held her stupid hand in that stupid dream? Or was it because he never was quiet and she couldn't give up on the idea that he might actually say something at some point that was meaningful or helpful? Talk about magical thinking. Where are we? Flora said to Tootie. I am not entirely certain, said Tootie. Great, said William Spiver. We're lost. Not that we know where we are going to begin with. We'll have to walk, said Tootie. Obviously, said William Spiver. But walk where? Chapter 60. He was Ulysses. They were in the woods. He can tell by the smell of pine resin in the trees and the sound of pine needles crunching underfoot. Also, there was the powerful, extremely pervasive scent of raccoon. Raccoons owned the night, and raccoons were truly terrifying creatures, more brutal even than cats. This will do, said Flora's mother. She stopped. She put the sack down on the ground, and then she opened it and shone a bright light on Ulysses. He clutched his poem to his chest. He stared into the light as bravely as he could. Give me that, said Flora's mother. She pulled the paper out of his paws. She threw it to the ground. Would she never tire of flinging his words away? This is the end of the road, Mr. Squirrel, she said. She put the flashlight on the ground. She picked up a shovel. The shovel. He heard Flora's voice saying, remember who you are. The squirrel turned and sniffed his tail. He thought about when Flora had shown him the picture of Alfred T. Slipper in his janitor uniform and how Alfred had been transformed into the bright light that was Incandesto. The words from the poem that Tootie had recited rose up inside of him. Flare up like flame and make big shadows. He wasn't a stone squirrel. Arr! He was Ulysses! Eek! And that's the end of chapter 60. Happy reading.